tariffs?
Well, I feel like for years we've been getting ripped off, and why not make it fair? 0-0. And I think Trump was upfront about it. He said we're going to hurt some now.
I think some of the countries they're already starting to come around. It's going to be good. I really believe that.
You have faith in Trump?
Yes, I do.
I think he's doing the right thing. In order for us to get back where we need to be, he needs to get the money somewhere, and they're charging us.
This week, you saw a lot more clarity heading into the goal, which is get tough on China, be open to negotiate with other countries. If President Trump will sell this as a fairness issue, Americans are going to be with him. That CBS poll indicates a majority support his goals on this. Germany shouldn't be taxing our cars at 100% when we tax theirs at a quarter of that. It's a basic level of fairness. And Democrats, for their part, this is a big chance for them. Like Elizabeth Warren, who you had on the show earlier, she's been for tariffs her whole life, but she hates Donald Trump more than she likes the things she believes in. It's a big chance. Joe Biden added tariffs to electric vehicles and solar panels and steel and aluminum. Democrats need to work with Donald Trump to crack down on China.
Another day. Talking about tariffs. Yes, tariffs has been on the mind of many people. Many people are wondering, is tariffs truly popular with the American people? As you saw from the intro, CNN decided to ask everyday people's opinion about tariffs. And recently, over the weekend, I believe Trump went to UFC and he got a big ovation. Now, granted, it's in Miami, where I used to live and I grew up at. And what can I say? He's still very popular here in the state of Florida. And many people, tariffs. Trump's winning on the tariff issue, in my opinion, is because he's framing it in fairness. End of the day, one of the it's scientific at this point that humans have an innate disgust over unfairness. Right? You talk about the trade deficits, you talk about the fact that they tariff us 100%, like they tax us 100% of our goods, we tax them 25% of our goods. How is that fair? Trump said, I want reciprocal tariffs, and all of a sudden, he's breaking the stock market. Make it make sense. And from the intro, I'm kind of highlighting how the Democrats are pretenders. I talk about this numerous times on my channel. Democrats pretend to be good, but they don't want to actually do good. And as an example, from the intro, you saw Brad Todd talk about how Elizabeth Warren was for tariffs her entire life until Donald Trump decided that he wanted to do tariffs. And this is kind of the cycle that leftists always get themselves caught up in, is that they'll cheer when Biden do tariffs. They'll cheer when Democrats want to do tariffs. But the minute a Republican want to do tariffs, all of a sudden it's the worst thing since sliced bread. And this kind of framing that the Democrats and their supporters love to do, it does us all a disservice, right? But before I go into this, I want to show you this clip about how, the market sell-offs and all this stuff. Sometimes they love to blame Donald Trump, but could it also be the fact that the media themselves create the hysteria that causes the sell-off? I think that's an interesting point to consider here. Let's take a look at this segment.
Well, yeah, if you want to look at insider trading, look to Nancy Pelosi, as Giano pointed out. She consistently beats all the hedge funds and the S&P 500. I wonder why. But I think that this is another example of the left and the media hating Trump more than they love this country, because they drove so much hysteria that led to a lot of volatility in the markets. And I had Charles Payne on my podcast, who we all know from Fox Business is amazing. And he was talking about that, most people heading into the year would probably say we were due for a course correction as it was. And he pointed out that there are these things called soft data and hard data. And if you look at the hard data of the economy, it's strong. You have great jobs numbers. You look at Delta's earnings. All of those things are positive, and the soft data is, some of this volatility and the things that we're seeing in the market. But a lot of that's driven by the hysteria of the media. And so, I think it's sort of another example of what we saw during COVID, where, the media lost its minds and drove fear, and that led to bad outcomes. So I think the media, if they love this country, pump the brakes, let's report this honesty, and don't unnecessarily drive fear and volatility.
And this is why, America's perceived the media as a threat to United States. This is why Americans don't trust the mainstream media anymore. It's exactly as she said it. Survey data, which is what the soft data is, the opinion of the economy is different from the data. Oh, prices are going down with eggs. Mortgage rates decline again. I want to show this clip of Batia, my favorite leftist, right? She calls herself a leftist. She's a MAGA leftist. She's a self-proclaimed MAGA leftist. And watch how she breaks down this facade of the Democratic Party. You know, the Democratic Party that pretends that they're the party for the American people, they're party of the working class. You know, they say we fight for everyday Americans. We fight against the billionaires and the millionaires. Remember Bernie Sanders? And you're gonna see Batia bring the receipts about Obama's administration and how he decided to pick the elite over the working class. Let's take a look.
They're thinking about it. It feels like the direction they're heading in is that what Trump basically wants is for our allies to consume a lot more of our products and for China to produce a lot less of what we consume. And so I think what he's going for is a kind of soft global embargo on China. And the way that he went about doing that is he basically picked up a baseball bat and said to the entire global elites, that's a really nice stock market you've got. It would be a shame if anything happened to it. And the reason that I think that that was effective is, I mean, Lutnick is saying that they could never have gotten such good deals if that pressure that you're actually describing wasn't there. But I think that that was more designed for a domestic audience. And the reason that I think that is this: I've been thinking a lot about the 10 million Americans who lost their homes in the 2008 financial crisis and how President Obama's first act in office was to give $700 billion to the banks that caused it, including $30 billion in bonuses to the crooks who organized it. And I'm thinking about how those very Americans saw a president pick Wall Street over Main Street, and what they saw this whole week was a president willing to go out there and fight for the forgotten men and women of this heartland and take on the entire international global order.
First of all, you cannot say
I think I have a diverse diet, right? I watch people who are more fearful of the market, some of their things that, oh, look, China, the reason why they import less products than the United States is because Chinese people consume less compared to Americans. I hear all that. But from a political sense, and this is why I sometimes you can't really trust people online. Like, as much as they try to present themselves objective, it's not truly objective. Because truly objective will be, okay, what is Trump's like goal here? And understanding Trump's goal, because Trump's the one with the power, not you. Oh, who cares if it hurts you? If it's a calculation that Trump was already factoring in and he still made the decision anyway, that means he's prioritized something more than just your wallet. And I like Batia's example that this was a warning shot to the globalist corporations and saying, hey, you're not priority anymore. Get in line. I already talked about it on this channel that 70% of the volume, market volatility, 70% of it is institutional investors, institutions. Like these stock traders that work for these hedge funds, that's majority of the volatility. It's rare that me or you are moving the market like that. And the fact that, you know, these guys try to paint it as, oh my God, look how hysterical the market is. And the market's still closed at least 5% higher than it was prior during the week of Liberation Day, right? And I think many Americans are starting to see this, and I want to play this clip before we get into the debate of how some Americans are reacting to this and why they think that American consumers are not actually hurt by the tariffs, but in reality is these globalist corporations that are trying to create a narrative, a perception. And I talked about this before, how these globalist kind of people who are not tied to a country are trying to control or create artificial pressure on Donald Trump not to go a particular path that inadvertently leaves them with less leverage. But I digress. Let's check out this quick clip and then we'll get right into the debate.
So wait, let me get this straight. For years, we've been called conspiracy theorists about big corporations just slapping the Made in America or Made in France logos on everything. And all of these products were actually made in China. And now, Chinese manufacturers, they are straight up exposing them. Posting videos, receipts, factory floor footage, it's all out there. Turns out that $800 handbag, that luxury serum, artisan cookware, yeah, that all costs $7 to make in China. Your favorite woke corporation, they just slap their logo on it and sell it back to you for 100 times the regular price. And here's the kicker. The same corporations are out here crying about Trump's tariffs, claiming it would ruin business. No, what ruined business is out here lying to Americans while outsourcing jobs, exploiting labor, and, well, pretending to be premium brand. Now, the Chinese manufacturers, they are cutting the middleman and they are going straight to the source, the American people. Yes, you have to order in bulk, like 100 plus units. They're offering the transparency in the U.S. that corporations are refusing to give. Here's the truth. Trump's tariffs, they didn't hurt the American consumer. They hurt globalist corporations who are overcharging Americans, all while profiting off of huge profits by cheap labor. And now they're getting exploited by the very factories they exploited themselves. So if you're a small business owner, this is your moment. You could work directly with suppliers, you could build your own brand, and cut all the corporate snakes out of the equation. Just know what you're doing, because not everything is worth buying in bulk. But hey, the opportunity's there, right? Tariffs didn't fail, greed did. And Trump warned us. Now it's all coming to light.
Hey, there you go. And we talked about this, how what the tariffs are trying to do is protect small businesses. Small businesses who are, I talk about it a lot on this channel, are the majority responsible for employment. Like 60% of jobs are produced by small business owners. Tariffs affect small business. Like, it helps small businesses. And these mega corporations that they operate multinationally across the globe, they are feeling pressure about this. And this is what I'm talking about in my videos. Like, hey, Trump is prioritizing Main Street. And every decision comes with a trade-off. Every decision comes with a cost. If you want a Ferrari, you got to spend $400,000. Oh my God, $400,000 is a lot of money. I could do a lot of things with that. Well, then don't get the Ferrari. Trump made this calculation with this cost in mind. And the media sitting here pretending that he's just shooting from the hip. And then every time, there's some level of planning here. And the American people, I think they understand Trump's goal here. But without further ado, let's get into this debate real quick, and then I give my thoughts throughout the video. Let's take a look.
During COVID, we discovered that we were horribly dependent on a supply chain from China for some of our most essential products.
So let's be more precise. We have 4% unemployment at the record low of our lifetimes. And do you think Americans want to work in these factories? And if so, which factories? Obviously, pharmaceuticals, that's a dependency. Obviously, building ships and weapons, that's a dependency. I think we can all agree on that. And that might be low hundreds of thousands of jobs. Do you believe we should be making Nike sneakers here? Do you believe we should be making jeans here again? What would be the objective measure of success? Like a certain number of jobs, certain number of factories, certain types of factories? Because the other piece that I don't understand, and maybe you could inform me here, Sachs, is number one, who's going to do this work if we're going to be deporting millions of people and we have the lowest unemployment?
So this is why I showed you the clip of, I think she's a small business owner. That's why she knows so much about this effect of how the Chinese manufacturers expose these premium brands. They get this bag for $7, sell it for you to $800. You starting to see that the globalist companies are actually exploiting cheap labor, right? And this effectively what this liberal is saying, it's okay because, hey, look, we got illegal immigrants and they can do the job cheaply so they can compete so that we can get cheap stuff, essentially. And I don't think that's a good argument. I think that's a bad argument, especially from the people who claim that slavery was bad. Using cheap labor, paying somebody unfairly for a job that you know you could pay more for, I don't think it's a good idea to advertise that as a good thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I hate the immigration issue, the way that the left try to frame it. Essentially, they want a servant class. Immigrants are looked at as a servant class by these liberals. That's how I'm interpreting his framing here. And he's saying that we're dependent on these people, not knowing that, we got automation coming around the pike. We can't replace these jobs that we need cheap labor for with automation. I think automation will be a superpower for many countries, that they can essentially become self-sufficient to a higher degree with automation.
Employment of our lifetimes, and we have automation coming to these factories, and Americans don't want to take these jobs historically. How is this all going to work? It seems a bit farcical to me that we're going to bring these things back.
I don't think the millions of Americans who lost their jobs in the heartland because we let China into the WTO, which is something that Larry, I think, supported and championed.
We're talking about decades ago, though, right? Yeah.
That's what started this whole thing.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think those millions of people want to lose their jobs. So,
you're talking nonsense.
What are you talking about, Larry?
Respectfully, David.
You were Treasury Secretary
when we walked.
He called him out. Yo, this is the funny part. You act like, oh, the Americans don't want this job. And what I think I'm starting to get tired of from the left? I'm tired of the left making assumptions and preaching it like it's gospel. That's a liberal assumption that Americans don't want to do those jobs. How about if the jobs are available and if the jobs are competitive, have competitive pay, let the Americans decide with their actions what they want to do. Instead of casting this vision, oh, Americans don't want to do these jobs. How you know that? Last year, when Biden was in the when Biden was president, I remember this stat very vividly. That majority of jobs created went to non-Americans. I remember that, and I was like, "Damn, that's a strange statistic. How is foreigners benefiting more from an American economy than Americans are?" And now that we're deporting these people, you think Americans won't take these jobs because of your assumptions here. And I think a lot of these urban elites, these urban liberals, are very out of touch with rural America, where most of these places lost their jobs at. An urban city kid may not want to do these jobs, but can you say the same about rural America? Who the arrogance of the left. But I digress. Let's hear this debate hash out.
When we walk China into the WTO, and you're just still defending it. I was just watching an interview. Hold on, Larry. Larry, you just did an interview with Neil Ferguson. Wait.
My question?
Why am I the only one who gets to talk for 2 seconds before I get interrupted?
Okay,
you guys get 5 to 10 minutes.
Finish your thoughts. Finish your thoughts for 2 or 3 minutes, and then
I get
Larry
to speak
will
for
go.
2 seconds. Then you interrupt me. You speak for 5 or 10 minutes.
Go right ahead.
Larry, I just saw you do an interview with Neil Ferguson where he asked you, was it a good idea to bring China into the WTO? Was it a good idea to give them permanent normal trade relations status, basically MFN, which is something that Bill Clinton did in 2000, and I admit it was bipartisan. George W. Bush continued it. And you were defending this as a good idea for the country. What was the result of that over the past 25 years? Millions of industrial jobs were lost. They were exported to China. Millions of factories shut down. The United States has a diminished and hollowed out industrial base. We certainly can't make the products of the future, like drones or semiconductors. Jason, just to answer your question, yeah, obviously, some industries are more strategic than others. Do I personally care about sneakers or textiles? No, I personally don't. Do I care about semiconductors? Absolutely. Do I care about circuit boards? Do I care about drones? Do I care about robots? Do I care about EVs and cars? Absolutely.
Okay.
Those
David,
industries, we are no longer in a position.
David?
We are no longer in a position as a country to make those products because we exported our entire supply chain and manufacturing base to China.
David, I have 3
so how
questions.
is that a good idea, Larry?
And I think that's the crux of the argument, right? I think many people can understand being self-sufficient, and that should be the norm for every country. That hey, we can make most of our products in this country, and I think that's the sentiment that Donald Trump is really putting out from a political sense. And even if it hurts economically, end of the day, you have to consider the political angle here. As a government, hey, you want the future, you want drones, you want computer chips, but we need to get it from Taiwan, and in effect, China. China can influence or affect our ability to make computers here by going at Taiwan. Look how dependent we are on other countries. And Trump is like, yo, we need to build back, we need to have a base point. Right now, we have no base point. And I think all the economic arguments that some people are trying to make, like, oh, America's future is not here in manufacturing. Sure. But you can't just dismiss the concerns that is currently being expressed here. That we hurt a whole class of people. This is why we always call the rural American the forgotten man. Because a lot of politics, a lot of these people, a lot of these journals, they pay attention to what urban people think about these things, not rural people. And when you get a chance to ask these rural people, they're like, yeah, I want more opportunities. Hey, yeah, I have a steel mill in my community and it's the only employer in this place. We need more opportunities here. But they don't care. Instead, they want to put out this fake narrative. Oh, Americans don't want to do these jobs. What kind of Americans are you talking to? Urban Americans or rural Americans? Because I think you'll get 2 different kind of answers depending on which one you're asking. But that's just my thoughts. I'd like to hear yours in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts and perspective on this matter. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you feel so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.